Okay.
Right. Oh my gosh, where's my cursor? All right, I'm going to call the Tuesday, September 24th meeting of the Finance Committee to order. Roll call, Alder Galvin.
Here.
Alder Corpus Dax.
Present.
Alder LaFave.
Here.
And Alder Dorf is here. Okay, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Alder Galvin.
Second.
Second by Alder LaFave. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Alder Galvin.
Second.
Second by Alder Corpus Dax. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Regular business. Item 1. Request approval to purchase one 2019 Type 1 ambulance from Jefferson Fire and Safety Incorporated for $256,807. Staff.
What I can tell you is went out for a normal bid. We got one qualified bid back. That is what you're seeing in your packet. Wondering if you had any questions on that.
Is that unusual?
To just get one bid.
I'm going to defer to Chief Litton.
Yeah, I would tell you that, the bidder, the successful bidder here in Lifeline Ambulance, they've been the successful low bid, most qualified bid on the last 4 ambulances.
So
Rick
everyone just
Jensen-
gave up or what?
Yeah, kind of. Rick Jensen did reach out to the other vendor that was interested, and they basically told Rick that they could not meet their price.
Okay.
So they did not bother to bid. We've been very, very happy with this line of ambulances over the last 4 builds, and it's in line with, we're seeing anywhere from a 3 to 5% build-to-order increase every year in everything, fire apparatus, fire ambulances, and so forth, so it's right in line with those numbers. So
Where's Jefferson out of?
Iowa. Well, Jefferson's out of Wisconsin, but Lifeline's out of Iowa. So Jefferson's the vendor here in Wisconsin.
Okay.
They actually are built in
Okay.
Iowa.
The dealership, whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
All right, any other questions on the ambulance? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept the bid.
All right,
Second.
motion by Alder LaFave, second by Alder Galvin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, request by Alder Galvin for the police department to work with IT to set a system on the city's request for service icon for citizens to report problems and request service. I don't see are the police here.
Actually, our IT administrator is going to be speaking to that.
Okay,
And the chief will be here a little bit late, he had a 4:30.
you were here. That's right, you were the police.
I just have a small handout. We just prepared it before the meeting, but Alder Galvin met with Commander Warwick, and we've agreed to put the following request types on the city's website, as you can see in the drop-down list. And the records request and the fill out for a police report is just going to go directly to the police's website and fill out the forms that are online there. And so basically, we've kind of put all this information in one place. And then the fingerprinting request is just going to be information on the office hours and what information they got to bring to the police department.
So
And
like
then
instead of calling the police?
No.
No.
No, what this is I'm sitting in my living room, and this guy on a loud motorcycle go by every day, almost like clockwork. And, you can't always guarantee there's gonna be an officer there, but I can get a description of the vehicle, maybe I know where it's coming from, or I can get a license plate number. So instead of putting in a call for service that, due to triage, may wait 3 hours, and the officer spends his time getting there and goes, oh, okay, I sent him this information. Guy takes it, and as part of his duty, he'll stop by that house, have a talk with the owner, and get it squared away that way. They still get the call for service, and there's going to be information to the effect that, just like when you call, if this is an emergency, or if you need immediate police response,
Then
call
you
the
should.
non-emergency. But this is something that, sometimes those calls can sit there and wait, and it doesn't need an even that day response. We have CPs, we have traffic enforcement officers, drug enforcement officers. They can get this information. Drug enforcement officers can contact you at a later date, get better information, because they move about. A lot of these things don't just happen like boom, like clockwork. And so I was looking for something stuff that annoys people, that it's just not worth calling the police right now, but maybe the cops could look into it when they have the time. And so just another way of, like school bus violations. You're not going to have an officer respond right away. You call it in, they get a hold of you, they get the information, they go after the violator, and they handle it at a later time of the day.
So with the drop down, you would go to the records request, or do you, like, say, loud vehicle, would you go to
Okay,
loud
so,
vehicle?
yeah, you would click on loud vehicle, screen
Okay.
shows up, it wants your information, like your email, that kind of stuff, describe what is going on,
Okay.
vehicle description, that kind of stuff. Do you want to be contacted, or do you just want this to be end of it from your participation?
Oh, okay.
So you request to have an officer get back to you, go, yeah, I talked to the guy, he's gonna get it fixed, or I talked to the guy and I gave him a ticket, or I talked to the guy, you got the wrong plate, it's wrong, you know, so these kind of things to help them out. And so,
Okay.
because some people want to know that something's done, some people, they don't care, they just want the officers to look
Right.
into it. So
Right.
it's just like if you go to any of these, and I thought it was just so neat that we had that request for service icon on our computer, or on people's, on the website. So you have the same thing for inspection, sanitation, sidewalks, all that kind of stuff. If you ever take a look at it, it's very neat.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been trying to educate my constituents to use that instead of calling me. Not that I don't want the calls, but by the time they call me and then I call, more time goes by. So,
Right.
I can,
But, okay, so where would the school bus complaint go under these? I mean,
it would
there's-
be traffic.
oh, yeah.
There should be a,
Maybe we just don't have everything on here. We don't.
School bus complaint?
Yeah, like he just said that. And
Well,
I'm
we would just
thinking-
add it to the list if you feel like you needed one.
No, I'm not,
Well,
and I'm not saying that we do, I'm just saying everything, it can't be an all-inclusive list, right? I mean, I wouldn't.
you're not gonna get everything. 'cause
No,
there's
you're not,
so much
but
out
you
there.
brought that up,
But
is
if they had
that,
something like traffic, if they had a traffic icon, like traffic problem, something like that, traffic violation,
We have a traffic icon, we could add to that.
yeah, exactly.
and do other cities have something like this?
Sure.
Oh, they
The normal
do?
thing. Out west, they call it a 311 service. We just call it a request for service. Some people call it complaint tracking. Doesn't say.
And how
It's
does,
various.
how does the police department feel about it?
I really wasn't involved, and I know
Kevin seemed
will.
okay with it.
Kevin seemed okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he wasn't against it,
Okay.
and he just thought, because people already can call the department, and sometimes they'll get shifted to the traffic lieutenant
Okay.
and leave a phone call message,
Okay.
and then they get contacted back, and so this just puts it into that computer.
So who is checking this?
Okay, and that's something that the PD is setting up, so there will be one person responsible to check this on a daily basis, and if he's not there, like on vacation or sick, then there will be a subordinate that will be checking on it.
So, but it's not gonna be around the clock, it'll
Right.
be,
Once a day,
Once a
someone
day.
comes in, punches in, and see what's there. That's why the nature of these calls are stuff that can wait a day or two.
okay, non-emergency.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
You sure all the bugs are out? Because I did a few months ago inspection. You can go on and report potholes. Well, I did the one, and sat there, I pushed it to the bottom, send in. Sat there, I thought, well. So I put another one in, nothing happened. So I went down to inspection and said, well, you can report it. I said, yeah, but it doesn't work. It didn't send it in.
Well, maybe, yeah,
So
okay.
Depends on your
we gotta
Wi-Fi
make
signal or
sure.
something.
Yeah,
You know, there's a lot of variations in sending it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know where you're
Yes.
at or whatever.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I
It
just
has
put on
worked for me,
inspection.
tell 'em.
Yeah.
It has worked
Well-
for me. So how much does it cost to do
Free.
this? It's free, not,
Yeah, we program them
you
internally.
just program it?
Yeah.
And we had the,
And in
Yeah.
regards to your message, if somebody needs to, you have to fill out the complaint and put a checkbox in
Right.
to confirm that it is not an emergency, so
Oh, to confirm.
Right.
Yeah.
Before you can even-
Oh, I
Yeah.
like
And
that.
and that's good,
Yeah.
because you want to make, we absolutely don't want someone thinking they're calling 911. find a
Right.
computer,
Right, yeah.
And then
yeah.
a week later,
Oh, that is a really good idea.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure, yeah.
Now it doesn't say with action. Do we need to take action on this?
We're just gonna continue development, and when we, make it live, we'll let Alder Galvin know.
yeah.
Okay. Receive and place on
Yes.
file, or? Okay.
Motion to receive and place on file.
By Alder Galvin, second by Alder LaFave. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, a resolution authorizing a 2019 transfer of $14,559.21 from contingency for expenses related to Oneida Trust matter. Yeah.
This is very similar to a transfer you saw about a month ago, so we've been working closely with the legal department, and as they're paying bills that pertain to the Oneida Trust issue, we are bringing it to you and asking for the contingency transfer. The last one was right around $20,000, so this is 14, so that we're up to about $35,000 that has been transferred in 2019 for the Oneida Trust matter.
Any questions? approval?
So moved.
By Alder Corpus Dax, second by Alder Galvin. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
You're opposed?
Yep.
Okay.
Spending too much money.
Do you want us to do the vote online then, or do you want?
Nope, I think,
I got it.
Okay. All right. Motion carried. Update and discussion on the 5-year combined capital improvement plan.
okay, I apologize, I did not, was not able to get an attachment into the packet. Some of the items I needed to talk to the mayor about, and I did discuss them with him yesterday, so I gave you each a handout. I have a handout for the department heads if they're looking for it. Our last meeting, we kind of looked at the expenses. I know we're gonna look at them again, but there were a lot of questions around funding. So this goal of this memo is long, but I am gonna try to run through it real quick.
Do you have an extra one? We have a student in the audience.
Yep.
Is it all right for the student to have it?
Yes?
Student, you can come up and get one of these.
I'm
Take care of
gonna
our
give one to the
students.
department heads then right away. That way they can follow along.
Yeah, I'll get this to him.
So what the goal was, and some of my follow-up from our August special meeting was, we knew funding was a critical piece. Some of the questions that came up are, what does a mill rate look like in 5 years? What are the levy limits? How do they come in play? What bonding is gonna get paid off? When do kids expire? How can we afford to pay for these expenses? Housing, that 1 year of TIF increment, what's the impact? Should we max out our levy limit? And then there were a few other items about Plan B for the police repairs, and then there was also something about leasing equipment. So that is all trying to be handled into this document. So, again, kind of long, but I'm going to try to rattle through it rather quickly, and then as you have questions, please let me know. First part of it is just says, in the 2020 budget, we know what our allowable levy limit is going to be. It's about $617,000. We do have an adjustment that we can take. It's adjustment E, where we can do debt service for general obligation authorized prior to July of 2005. And we do have a capacity of 9 million, so we can go really as high as we want if we have the appetite to take the mill rate up. The 617 was driven by net new construction of 1.136, plus we had a slight unused levy limit from the year before is 33,000. That's how we come up to the 617. Historically, I was asked historically where we were at and where do we think we'll be in a few years. As you can see, in the previous years, our net new construction's been right around 1%, 0.9, 0.9, 1.5, 0.98. This year it's 1.136. That's averaging around a 1%. So I just wanted to show the next couple of years, I still think our levy limit increase is still going to be around 550, 600,000. Kind of a small amount, and it's based on net new construction about 1%. What just increasing $617,000, our mill rate would go up 9 cents or about 1% if we just stuck to the levy limit maxed without taking any adjustments. So again, I just wanted to, someone asked, where's our mill rate going to look like in maybe 5 years? And I just say our current mill rate is 916. We decided to just take levy limit impact over the next 5-6 years. We'd go up about 9 cents a year. 5 years, we could be at about 955 or 965. And then the other item I just wanted to mention about levy limits, if we ever wanted a large project like a public safety building, we could go for referendum, which would allow us to take us above the levy limits, but that would be through referendum.
And that would be to fund the entire project?
To fund, well, it would be to allow to take a larger mill rate increase than what levy limit would allow.
Because we'd have to bond it.
We would still have to bond for it,
Yeah,
but then
we
we
would-
would bond, and then you would say, okay, now we can't, we're gonna have to go up, I don't know, some larger percentage than what the levy limit would allow.
Pay off that bonding
Correct.
within the 20 or 30 year.
Correct, it would have to be probably two things that go together, you're gonna bond, and we would have to get a referendum approved to go up. So that would be kind of the impact, that is currently what our levy limit would allow, and what
And that
capacity
9
we
cents
have.
would be 9 cents per thousand.
Correct, per thousand. So it would take our
And what did
9
we do last year again? What was?
we went up 16 cents or 1.5%.
So we were at 9.
We were at 902,
94. Okay.
16
or we went up
cents.
14 cents, then
14
about
cents,
14
okay.
cents or 1.5%.
But all we're allowed to go up is
Oh.
the 0.09. That's
Correct, at this point.
at
Yes.
this point.
Yes.
Okay. What will change that?
If you do-
If assessed value changed slightly, or if our revenues, or if we find some tweaks in our revenues, that, those all have favorable impacts on expenses. What would you say? Oh, great, and then the next item is expenditure restraint.
Oh, yeah.
So there are a couple different factors, there's so many things that move that 9 cents around, but just straight across levy limits, that'd be 9 cents if no revenues changed and our assessed didn't change.
So that would bring us how much more money than we have right now? Just 616,000?
Yep, our current levy limit right now is about 54 million, so it would allow us to take us up about 600,000 on the 54 million.
Okay.
Right, now- and then the other limit that the city is under is the expenditure restraint program, and that is calculated by net new construction, same thing, the 1.136. So and remember, the city of Green Bay has a $6 billion assessed value, so it's still, to take a $6 billion number up 1% is still nice growth, it's still growth. Obviously, some of your smaller communities are experiencing much larger growth, which is allowing them to have much higher levy limits capabilities. But we're still we have a large number, and we still move it up about 1% a year. And then they also take a CPI, and they take that of 1.85. It's projected, we have 1 month left but it's projected at 1.85. And then that calculation allows us to go up 2.5% over last year's budgeted expenses. Last year's budget expenses were $88 million. It would actually allow us to go up $2.2 million on expenditure restraint.
So
Okay.
what would that calculate out
Okay,
to?
keep going.
All right. She knew we were going to ask.
So if you would ever were to max out and go over the $2.2 million, currently we are getting about 1.6, or this year we're projected at $1,572,000. So if we ever decided to blow the expenditure restraint and just go up $4 million and not stick with that, the following year you would lose about $1.6 million that we're getting for the expenditure restraint. So you would have to make an intentional decision, like if you were doing a public safety building and did a referendum, you would be able to take it up, but in the next year you would take a hit. So the next point just says to increase the ERP to $2.2 million, or increase up to the expenditure restraint. So if we decide to take expenditures of last year 88 million up to the 2 million to about 90 million, that is an increase of 36 cents on the mill rate, or about 4%. We've had similar expenditure restraint between 2 and 3% every year. So if we use similar assumptions, our current rate is 9.16. By this budget period, we could go up to 9.52 if you stayed at that, and maximizing your expenditure restraint, projected expenditure restraint in 5 years, we could be looking at about a 10.96 rate. But that would allow us $2 million every year to increase your expenditures, and that would probably allow you to start putting in some of your capital and other needed items. But
So instead of bonding,
Some
we
of
make
the-
some of those things.
potentially. Because
Like the cars and
because
things that.
last year, we only took our expenses up about 300,000, because that's what levy limit only allowed. And then this year, if we only do levy limit, we can only go up about 600,000 this year. So
But we'll lose the expenditure restraint money if we go up?
only if we go over $2.2 million.
Only if we go over 2.2?
Correct. So those are your two limits you have to stay in.
Okay.
But again, so if we decided to max out your expenditure restraint, we do have an adjustments we can use on the levy limit side that would allow us to go to the 2.2. And we could do that easily for 5 years, and we would have enough of an adjustment on the levy limit side. But then do you have an appetite to take it up to 10.96 over the next 5 years? Those are some of your options. And then just other funding sources. Of course, departments continue to look for grants that they could help reduce the levy support. Question came up about debt service. When will they get paid off? When will we see a reduction? And the reason why your debt service and each budget continues to look about the same dollar amount is because our financial advisors ladders out our payments. So they try to make them even, and then they'll back end them if they need to, but they try to keep our payments relatively flat. However, with us borrowing slightly more every year than we are paying off, we are actually going to see increase in our debt service required every year if we stay at the current fund borrowing, slight increase. So there's not going to be any benefit on the debt service side over the next 5 years. My next paragraph is just saying, still relatively early, but our 2020 budget, when we look at the first draft, met with the mayor yesterday, expenses are rolling in higher than your expenditure restraint will allow. So where now our expenditures have gone up more than $2.2 million. And so I'm not sure at this time we'd be able to include capital into this budget yet. But again, we are meeting with the mayor Thursday and Friday to look through more numbers and to get so he has a better feel on what is making up the budget. So at this point, again, I don't have a lot more information for you. The next point was, another question is, well, what can we do? And of course, how do we try to get equipment into our future budgets? One, increase mill rate, control operating expenses, which includes salaries, limit contract increases, reduction in services. We could start charging for some of our current services, or find other tools from the state.
And so, I mean, we've reduced services already. Haven't we reduced?
Well, we could, okay, you could get rid of the SROs. You could get.
Why? The school district
Well,
pays for the SROs.
Well, but they still cost the city some money. You could get rid of the community police officers. You could, anyone.
Stop picking on the
You can
police
stop
department.
No, I'm picking on the police department because if you were to get rid of, okay, say you got rid of, because I know that.
Yes.
Okay, each officer's worth about $100,000. You have a unit called community police officers who are about 9 right there. That would save you $900,000. That's the way, to me, you're gonna save money. The way we've done it in the past is we nitpick $10,000 here, $500 there.
So how are we going to serve our public, though?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Well,
and that's.
It'd be like if you closed all the parks for
Right, we
parkies
could
in the
close all
summer.
the parks.
I mean,
Yeah.
Or stop certain kind of pickup, brush
Okay,
pickup,
all right.
or
So-
those type of.
Right.
that's
We would
what
have to
event
just
services.
choose other tools from, I'll choose other tools from the state.
Okay,
From that
and those are
list.
kind of where the mayor said that, he's reaching out, trying to find if there's
Right.
anything else available. Again, that's kind of like looking for grants. I mean, if that potential comes around, we're certainly going to take advantage
Oh,
of it.
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So then some of the other questions that were asked, what's the impact of, and when will the TIDs close? And as Director Vonk has expressed and got resolutions approved to close down TID 17, 7, and 8, and 9, and really and 12, and over the next couple of years. With a planned termination date of 2020, and for TID 17, and then 7, 8, and 9 is the year later, because that is with the assumption that we would use the affordable housing. Your estimated increased assessed value would be for each TID listed, $279,000 for TID 17, $29 million for TID 7, almost $12 million for TID 8, $7 million for TID 9, and then we were at about an $81 million increment in TID 12. What that means is, once we close them, your estimated assessed value to the city general levy for 2022 would go up $48 million. What the clue or the formula or calculation for that is, for every about $6 million in increased assessed value, your mill rate would go down about 8 cents. So 2 years from
This is
now.
1 cent.
1 cent, I'm sorry. So
Okay.
then you take the 48 million divided by the 6 million. So for the kids at 17, 7, 8, and 9 coming online to the general levy in 2022 will take your mill rate down 8 cents. So whatever it's at minus 8, just by having more
see.
assessed value.
Or if you keep it the same,
Then you can,
more money to spend on.
in that case, your
services.
formula would be about about $500,000 more expenses you could put into your general
500,000,
expenses,
yeah.
and everybody's mill rate or bill would roughly stay the same.
Okay.
And then the next line is including TID 12 the following year, all 17, 7, 8, 9, and 12 by 23, you would see an increase of $129 million in assessed value, which would actually be another 13 cents from the year before, or a total of 21 cents by these 5 TIDs closing by 2023. Remembering that these are all TIDs are being closed early.
Right.
But there's also that package that Kevin has talked about, whether or not we should take it for one more year and get the dollars for the housing.
Housing.
So these assumptions are with, assuming the housing assumption is for the affordable housing. The only thing different is if for some reason you chose or approved not to move forward with affordable housing, this impact would come online 1 year earlier for general levy. So I know those were questions of whether or not it's a great thing to have extra housing dollars, but what impact does it have on the general levy? And this is what it would do if we closed them and didn't take the affordable housing package.
So the affordable housing would take all of this, you're saying?
No, it would just delay, this money coming to your general levy. The increment would actually,
1 year.
for one more
That's
year,
right.
would go
Okay, that's-
back
I
into
remember now.
the
Yeah.
city to be used for housing.
And do we get some additional dollars because? we're
Correct,
doing
and I had the dollars, Kevin Vaughn, Director Vaughn had put together a chart saying with affordable housing, we get about 2.2 million that comes to, I'm sorry, 3.2 that would come to affordable housing, and the city would still get 1.69 or 1.7, so total they would get 4.8 million, 4.9. If we choose not to do the affordable housing, the city will get about 2.9, or really a reduction of, what is it, about $1.5 million in those years to use for affordable housing. So the city will, because what you're doing is you're allocating it back to the general, or the taxing jurisdictions a year earlier. They'll get their piece a year earlier. But obviously then the city also gets a portion of that increment, or in this increased assessed value on their levy also. So, any questions on that? I know that was certainly a question on, something.
We're gonna have to just really go over that when we have that joint meeting.
Right, this is really for informational now on the funding side. Next page just talks about there are 2 more TIDs that have mandatory term dates of 2025 and 2026. If we do the housing, it's a year later. These are not TIDs that Dr. Von has suggested terminating at this point, but just in the wings, in a couple years from now, we would also have some additional TIDs that are going to close, and they're both the rather large ones also, that you would have a nice impact on the general levy. You'd have to by the 2026. Then there were 2 other follow-up items that were on the August 21st meeting, and that was kind of what is Plan B for the police department. They were asked if they don't get a public safety building and they have to wait a few more years, what would it take for them to get what repairs are necessary for the current police building. I see the chief is here, and also have their manager here to talk about the numbers that were pulled together. They came up with about $630,000 plus additional items that they would want repaired over the really next 5, 10, well, it looks like some of these could last 15 years. That would be a Plan B if we would decide to stay in that building for a period longer, and these would be the repairs that they would need.
When is this decision coming to council? Does anybody know?
Decision.
About whether
PD.
we're deciding to keep them in their building or build a new building? Celestine?
Well, it would be part of the capital improvement plan, to decide whether or not you want to try to build these in for the next couple of years, and if we can't afford a public safety building, I guess that would be council's decision.
Are we planning, is the mayor's office putting together a Plan A, Plan B, Plan C?
So Celestine Jeffries, Chief of Staff for the camera. So right now, we're making sure that PD has what they need in order to continue to occupy that building for a while. But in order for us to plan a public safety building, we would need to really do some different kind of long-term planning in terms of our bonding, in terms of our borrowing. That is, so the mayor's office, it's clear that the PD cannot exist in that building come 2019. So.
These are things we have to do just to keep them in there until we get a building built, is that right?
Yes.
That's not what it seems like it's saying here.
Oh.
But this is if we didn't, I got that if we didn't build a building, then we don't have to do
Yeah,
this.
no,
But
we are
we
not
have
in a
to do
position right
this.
now to
We
be
have
able
to do this.
say, yep, we can build the building in 5 years. We're not in that position right now.
Okay.
So we need to be able to keep them in their building
And so we need to come up with
for a few years to
$630,000.
make it safe.
$630,000 to make it safe.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's got to be in the budget.
Hopefully that was clear.
Well,
It is now.
it's not clear.
Yeah.
No, but now it is. So it's good.
So this $630,000 will be part of this year's budget?
No.
No?
None of these dollars will be built in. This was all part of our capital improvement plan, and the question was whether or not, if they chose not to move to the public safety building and they needed to stay in a few more years, but you're correct, we have not, because really the public safety building did get pulled from our 5-year capital improvement plan, what's Plan B. These will now be added to the capital improvement plan, and then they can decide is that 2020, 21, 22, and then these would have to be bonded for.
Well, again, as we sit here and we kind of, it seems to me, we're kind of putzing around. I was on that committee, we were ready to pull the trigger, and then I'm not sure really what happened. Suddenly reality hit us as our budget goes, which is kind of funny that we didn't see that coming down the road. You know, the whistle train, do you hear it coming type thing.
I thought,
And all of a sudden, the new PD's off the thing, and now we've got a new mayor. He's got a different way of looking at things than the old one, so that's fine. But I'm really getting a tight feeling in my stomach about this police department and where we're going with it.
About the building.
Well, if you look at the history of the police department, they were in the basement of an old city hall, who moved into a grocery store, who finally got a new building, who ended up putting a second floor on, moving out municipal court, all this other stuff back and forth. There's more wiring in that place because of all the renovations that have been made. If there was an earthquake, it would probably be suspended by the wiring in it. One portion of it is sinking. You can't repair it. All the ceiling tiles on the second floor have water stains. The basement smells like sewer all the time.
yeah, sewer gas is
I
leaking
mean,
in, it
there's
says.
there's so many things going, and I guess if we were to pull the trigger today, how long would it take to build a new PD?
Well, building it isn't the problem, it's funding it.
That's- Okay, say we pulled the trigger today and we said we're gonna bond for a new PD, how long would it take to build it? And get it bonded,
We'd
get
have
it
to do a
built?
referendum, wouldn't we, to get the money for it? You
That
can't,
is
I
a-
talked to
That's a
Director.
finance question. I mean, we're talking really between $30 and $50 million.
Right, absolutely.
We don't have that money sitting around.
So here we sit, are we gonna make $630,000 part of our capital improvements, or aren't we? I mean, it's,
Yeah, yeah.
the police department deserves an answer, the public deserves an answer on this, and I'm certainly hoping by the time we hit budget time, we've got some solid information so we can start making some decisions. If we're gonna go to referendum, it's too late this year. It's gonna have to be for next year.
So, I mean, there are some, I've been doing some research about what other communities have done in terms of their large capital projects, like building a new building, not just for public safety, but also City Hall. There are some things that I think would be important to bring up in terms of what may be the best practices for a public safety building and funding, and some conversations I've had with other communities. It's a 5 to 10 year plan in order to get the capital together to build a building.
So in the
And my-
meantime, we can't have sewer gas leaking into the building. I
So
mean, we
we're
gotta do
going,
something.
so you're talking 5 to 10 years. So
My
what-
experience with building, police buildings is that from the time they say, okay, you have the funding, it's generally about a 4-year process for them to do the site acquisition and do the ground and do all the architecture and planning and all that stuff, and actually get the building built and take occupancy. My experience, having done it 3 or 4 different times, it's about a 4-year process.
So we looked at
Once we have the
sites.
money.
Once we have the money.
Once we have the money.
We looked at sites, I thought we bought some sites.
We did not purchase anything.
We did not purchase any sites. We spent a lot of time looking though,
Yes.
and then
This
they
is a
just
big
kind
deal.
of,
I'll be honest, I'm not satisfied with 5 to 10 years. And for more reasons than this. There's evidence storage.
yes.
There's an increased department. Our department is understaffed. It's getting to the point where we keep putting these things off. It's gonna cost us more in the long run
Yeah.
than it is spending the money up front.
Yeah.
And I know we don't have chickens out there laying golden eggs, but we have to start making some serious decisions moving forward. And to me, 10 years is not acceptable. Certainly not acceptable at all. And I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right. And I'm hoping soon that staff can put something together so we can start having at least some considerations. Because how do we go from being ready to pull the trigger to, well, it could be another 5 to 10 years? That mystifies me, how we go from one point to another
Right.
point. If it's just the money, I understand that.
So do we need this as a separate agenda item to talk about some of those ways you've
Let
discovered?
me just also
or-
offer, to be fair to the other departments. So there are capital needs of, not quite that magnitude, that's probably our biggest one. There are capital needs in other departments.
Well, yeah, the fire department, definitely,
And this
DPW.
building has needs as
DPW.
well.
yes.
And not to mention, we have some other buildings that, we have 20 some odd buildings, I think. So there's a more ferocious dog in this hunt that we have to get our hands around so that we can understand exactly what our needs are, and that is what we are working on right now.
You're working on that, and you'll bring that to what, this
Diana.
committee?
Diana's
is working on
Diana's
that.
the finance person, but, you know, with the mayor's office
Right.
and all the senior staff, we're taking a very close
Okay.
look at all the things that we know that we need to pull the trigger on, and then what is the financing plan in order to get us there? Because as Diana had described, we can't just say, okay, we're gonna spend $50 million today.
Well, I guess is when you say needs, does that mean Director Grenier and Parks and all the other departments are having their input? I mean, we need to be looking beyond 5 to 10 years. We need to be looking for a police department that was built in 1969 and already it's obsolete. Now, I imagine when they built it in 1969, I remember when I started there, they thought it was still state of the art. Okay? They weren't looking far enough down the road as to how big this city was going to be and what the needs were going to be. And certainly there's some things you can't anticipate, like evidence storage. That was nowhere on the radar back then. But DPW, fire, parks, all these places, we need to be looking 100 years down, 50 years down the road, because it makes no sense to build a $50 million building that's obsolete in 50 years.
We agree.
So I hope when we're looking at these needs, that we're trying to consider as much information as possible as to what we need to have, so that when we build it, it's something that's sustainable, very long-term for the citizens of the city.
And that takes a lot of planning, Alder. We agree.
And I understand that, but again, I'm surprised, it seemed like we had it already, and now it's all dust. And I don't know, it confuses me
We'll figure that.
how we got there,
Well,
but hopefully we can move forward with this then.
Okay, go back, Director?
Yep, one more item, and then the other item was that the Fire Chief Litton was gonna be looking at, working with some vendors to discuss some leasing options
Yeah.
for some future purchases. So he is working with them. He said he'd have some more information probably by mid-October to look at for future leasing options versus purchasing.
And I see that the police cars being leased is off the list now, which I think is a really good idea. I mean, we talked about that at one of the meetings where, I remember we asked Peter Ward, but how in the world, those cars are pretty beat up. How do you lease a car? Yeah, I don't
Well,
see how
you're
you
rolling them
could.
over every 2 years instead of 5 years, or you're rolling them over every 3 years instead of 5 years. The cars aren't going to be quite as beat, they'll have a little bit more life
Right,
to
but,
them.
yes, but not leasing. I mean, leasing, you pay per mile if you go over a certain number of
Well,
miles. But buying
that's a
cars.
general civilian
Right.
lease. There might be a different kind of lease out there for, because what about the fire department leasing vehicles?
They don't, but like, all right, to me, patrol cars are out there on the road and they're always driving. And I know fire engines, where's Chief Whit?
He bailed.
He bailed. Well, they
Yeah.
go to fires, right? I mean, they're not driving around at the grocery store, maybe.
Well, they have inspectors
You know,
that are out and about.
I did that for his benefit. I was just joking him.
Thank you.
That's right. But I think police cars get a lot more use than fire.
They
It
do.
makes sense
And
to
it's
fire
hard use,
vehicles.
yeah.
Yeah, it's hard use. So
Yeah,
I'm
we have
just,
purchased, ma'am, we have purchased all the ones that we have. We just ordered some more, so
We can certainly look at detective vehicles, leasing, and some
Possibly.
of those other vehicles,
Possibly.
supervisor, or not supervisor, but.
Because we talked
command
about it,
staff
but it's not
vehicles and
on
things
here,
like
but-
that, that could be leased,
Yeah.
because they're not driven like that.
Right, right.
right. All right, anything
All right.
else you want us to listen to?
So this was a summary of the different funding options, all the questions that we had on funding. Unfortunately, I'm not sure we're going to be able to put equipment into the 2020 budget. We certainly have more information in 2 weeks after we spend more time with the mayor. I want to see what the next steps are. We've looked at some expenses, but of course we could update and relook at the expenses. We can look at our funding options. At this point, a lot of it, I think, is going to be, we may need to take the larger mill rate increase just to get, for expenses, operating expenditures. So,
I don't see how we ever catch up then. How does it ever work? I mean, somehow it does. Because, but then next year, won't we have to take an increased mill rate just to cover operating expenditures? It
Well,
feels like that.
well, you do have to remember, your expenses are going up 4 to 6% every year with salary increases and benefit increases, and we're really
I am
allowed to go up
remembering that.
1% in the
Right.
allowable limits, unless you're willing to take, like, maximize your expenditure restraint and go up the 4%. Then you might be able, at so many years, you might start seeing, you might be
Well,
able to catch up.
That's an option I want to hear about, because.
Yep, and that is
Yep.
option number 2.
Option number 2, all
We
right.
talked about the expenditure restraint. Maybe you max out your expenditure restraint each year, and that's where your current mill rate's at 916, and that, this year's expenditure restraint is 2.2 million. To maximize that, you would be going up about 36 cents or about 4% on your mill rate increase. If you continue to do that for 4 years, you would be at about a $10.96 mill rate, but you have now taken your expenditures, budget expenditures of 88 million. Every year it's at 85, 86, 87, 88. We're taking it up barely a million. This would allow you to take it up twice or more than what last year was, even smaller than on the general fund side. You would be giving you more capacity. if
But
you
then
take
we
the mill
lose
rate.
that expenditure restraint.
Nope, you will not lose,
We will
no,
not.
as long as you stay under the $2.2 million.
So,
You can max it out to 2,224,712, and you can max it up and use all of that, and still continue to get your payment the following year.
I gotta ask, why are we even considering 1%? Only 1% at this point? Or is that just what we've done?
That's, in the last many years, we've stayed within our levy limit and not gone up to the expenditure restraint. And there's some years we hadn't even maxed out our levy limit. There are some years we haven't taken a mill rate increase at all. There were several years.
Oh, I know
in a
that's
row.
part, yeah.
And last year,
for sure.
we
And that really, that's why we're really in the hole now.
Yeah, yeah.
If,
Yeah.
if we went up that 9 cents that she's talking, you'd be looking at $13.50 on a $150,000 house, $13.50. If you went up the max with the expenditure relate, you're looking at $54
$4.
on a $150,000 house.
$54.
Well,
And then we would have enough, or
It will-
we don't have to go all the way up, maybe, but,
Right. Right now, the expenses for 2020 are higher than the $2.2 million. We would have to still try to get back down to the 2.2 million. But at least if we max it out, we wouldn't have to cut like last year, the 4%. We wouldn't have to take such deep cuts as last year.
so we would
Compared
still
to-
be
we buy
taking
some
cuts?
equipment?
Wait, we
Okay.
would still be taking cuts if we maxed out the ERP?
Based on what was presented for the very first
Oh, so
2020
all
budget.
the department heads come in and this is my,
The original
this is
request.
what I really like to have.
Yes.
but
Yes.
would we get some equipment out of it that we wouldn't
I
have to
don't
bond
believe
it?
in 2020 you are going to get equipment. yet.
Even if we go to 4%?
Correct. Because you're trying to dig yourself out of holes that have been, last year, there were many departments
Trying
that
to
had
get
to leave
14 cuts.
positions open, and there's many departments that had
I
half staffs,
see.
and there were many
So
departments that got
that,
their.
that's how we even out, so that the next time, if we have to go up again, then we'd have
If you have
money
less
for not
holes.
to bond, because then we're not paying interest, we're not bonding.
Correct.
So then, we're using the tax dollars more wisely, because we're not.
But again, between salaries increases and WRS and health
Yes,
benefits,
yes.
your expenses are going up 4 to 6%.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I wish we could keep, it's gonna be up to council, but I don't know how we can still give service to this community and not have the mill rate go up.
Well,
Yeah.
and this, we've been fiscally conservative. And we've made the mistake of taking $800,000 out of our savings account the year
Right.
before. We took that $1 million surplus stadium tax
Right.
money the year before.
You
The
know,
years before that, we were very conservative on not taking the maximum allowed.
Right,
And a good portion of the population loves that.
yes.
But when it starts affecting, like I get calls, it
service.
took a half hour for an officer to respond for an
Right.
accident and things like that.
Yeah.
There's a balance, and I think that balance is gone. I think it's gotten to the point, we're down 14 officers, we're down DPW personnel and
DPW.
equipment and
The
fixing new
equipment,
buildings.
yes. Right.
We're short everywhere, we don't hire staff as soon as we should because we can save on
Save on money, so
salaries and
then
that.
the work.
And it's
behind.
to me, that's a bad way to operate a business.
agree.
There's a department in this state, in the Fox Valley, that actually has it set up so they can overhire staff. So when someone walks out the door, someone steps into their boots that same day. And so there's no interruption in service or anything else.
So I think that this is gonna be a controversial budget this year. I think that's probably what's gonna
Oh,
happen.
yeah.
But, I really appreciate all the work you put into this. It makes it very clear, we have choices. So we have to decide what are those choices we're gonna make.
And we're gonna have to really get it out to the public so they understand this. I think that we have not been telling them how bad how bad we are right now, the fix we're in. And everybody's gonna have to pay to fix it.
Haley, did you write that down?
Yeah.
Diane, is there a way, and I know you're putting a lot of work into this and also a lot of work into doing the options available to us that we may not even use, which is kind of frustrating. But is there a way, as we prepare for this upcoming budget, that we can have information, not only for us, that makes it very simple, kind of like what you did here, but also is something that we can give out to our constituents, and we can do on
Yeah.
press releases and that kind of stuff, so people aren't able to, so people are able to understand this simply, and that when you're putting that information out there, it's
Yeah.
easier for people to understand. You know, you start talking ERP, mill rate, and all this,
Yeah,
and
they-
you
What's
can see
that?
people's eyes glaze over.
Right.
You know, and I know you live on this stuff, but
And it's fascinating when we
you're
listen to
a
you.
special group of people that like that kind of stuff personally, that's my opinion, but God bless you for being there.
So,
Again, this was no action on this item. It was a follow-up of questions that were left open from the last time we had talked about the capital improvement plan. And next steps would be to really potentially at the next finance committee meeting, really the next 2 meetings from now is actually our budget meeting, a joint personnel and finance meeting.
we have got to get that out. I mentioned that last night at protection policy, and everyone was like, what? In October, because they're used to November. So it would be, could you please just do a mass email to all the alders and tell them, 3 o'clock probably, right?
Sure.
3 o'clock, October 29th?
Yeah, it's always been October, joint personnel and
Or it
finance
hasn't
meeting,
been?
but the budget meeting has always been the first, going into the second weekend of November. But joint personnel has always been the last week of October.
October? Okay.
Yep, it
Well,
has been the years that
I
I've been here.
believe you.
The years I've been here.
We're shocked. Okay, so please just get
Sure.
a little mass email out to all the alders.
29th at 3
and
p.m.
3 p.m.
Okay.
We're going to do that, 3 p.m.
3 p.m. Okay.
I think we probably received and place on file that information. This packet, this memo that I have included last minute, we will make sure it's attached to the council packet when it gets printed this week.
All right, I will accept a motion, receive and place on file.
Receive and place, motion to receive and place.
By Alder Galvin, second by Alder Purpose Dax. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carried. So we have reported the finance director.
Actually, I have nothing to report.
Okay, you already did reporting stuff. The information of the contingency account is at 75,367 minus whatever
15,
was
yep,
going to
it
be
will be
approved today.
Correct.
And the next finance committee meeting will be held on Tuesday, October 8th, 2019 at 4:30, although probably personnel is first that day, right?
It could be.
Do we go back and forth? We don't? Or usually finance is first?
We try to make the shortest agenda, or who's got,
Okay, whoever's got the
yes,
shortest
or
agenda.
if there's grievances or kind of closed sessions,
No
we try to
problem.
make it the best
We don't care.
for the crowd.
Whatever you guys decide, but
Okay,
4:30, October 8th. And I will accept.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned by Alder Galvin, second by Alder Purpose Dax. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.